Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, makers of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card-holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect, Cool Stuff Inc., and Quiver Time. Today I have a very special guest, a friend of mine from the internet, a dude by the name of Gunnar Wuher, who is, look, it's funny because of our pre-game conversation, but Gunnar here runs a charity tournament, I don't know, called Commander Sealed, which happens now, I think it's happened twice now.
4 times.
What? 4 times? Four
Yes.
times up in like far upstate New York somewhere, always at a time where I can't go. But it's really cool. It's this tournament where you guys basically take packs, build commander decks out of sealed packs, and then fight each other, which is literally my favorite way to play Commander. So I wanted to have you on today to talk about the art of running a tournament that's been going on for a while, like the fact that you got like the folios and other people to do cool things for you.
God.
Thanks for joining me, man. Good to see you again.
Thank you for letting me be on. Commander Sealed was an experiment.
Well, yeah, why don't you explain Commander Sealed better than I do?
Sure. All right, let's go. Hi, everybody. If you haven't heard of Commander Sealed before, CommanderSealed.com. Commander Sealed is a limited format where you make a 100-card singleton deck out of 14 curated packs of Magic the Gathering, and you have 75 minutes to sit at a table with 3 other people to trade cards back and forth to build the ultimate Commander deck. The trading portion was quite possibly one of the most popular things that you could do, and I am disappointed when I am sitting down at a table and I cannot trade my cards back and forth to make the best kind of deck now. It is
a clever idea.
Yeah, so that came from Dean. Dean Goody is the founder, the originator, the heart and soul behind the whole project. He's the guy. He's the guy who came up with it. Started in 2019, before Commander Legends came out, and he wanted to answer the question of how do I play Commander with a limited format, right? So he's like, we're going to get a bunch of packs and we're going to start trading things around. I came into the picture around 2021. I played the 64-man version that was held at Just Games. Just Games Rochester is the LGS, who is the tournament organizer for all of our, Commander Sealed stuff, essentially. And they're the home base, and they're intertwined forever now. That 64 tournament in 2021, towards the end there, was crazy. Because you could stand up, you could trade, you could move things back and forth, and they didn't really have a way to end the game beyond the rare Havoc Festival?
Yes.
Yes. So imagine Havoc Festivals. You get a Havoc Festival emblem immediately.
Oh no.
So fast forward to 2022. I'm on board. I look at Dean and I go, "Hey, I think we could go bigger." And Dean looks at me and says, "Hey, I think we can go bigger." And so we go from 64 to 256. That's the year we raised $15,000. That's where we were in an atrium of an old industrial building with very bad air conditioning.
That's a lot of Commander players.
It was very hot in that room, and it was crazy. But they had no way to end the game, so they were like, okay, once it gets around, you get to put another Havoc Festival emblem on, and then another Havoc Festival on.
Havoc Festival, by the way, is that at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player loses half their life, rounded up, and you can't gain life.
Yep.
From good old Ravnica, Return Ravnica.
Yep. That was the way we thought of ending the game. And then since I was on board and I was like, so Alan was there, a mental misplay. He was recording and showing the final game. And I was like, man, I know how to do this. I could do that. And then, that became a moment where I was like, how am I going to make Commander Sealed a bigger and better thing? Because I realized we had something. Like, I realized that this was something that we should be doing. And you know, you play competitive Commander, competitive. It's more along the lines of like you're building. It's a test more of your deck building skills, and it's a test more of your politics than it is anything else. And I was like, I could do that. So there I was, Vegas last year, sitting in my buddy's hot tub because he has a place in Vegas, and I'm sitting in this hot tub, and I'm like, right, as you do, and I'm like, I promise myself I will give 120% to Commander Sealed and this project, and to make it the best thing possible, so that it becomes the biggest thing possible. And I promised myself that I would put as much effort as possible, because, you know, when I was a kid, I would always hear my mom tell me that I would always give up on a project. Like, that's why she didn't let me do a lot of things. That was her excuse. And I was like, all right, I'm going to see this through. I'm going to put 120% of effort in, and I'm going to see what happens. And I did. And what you guys saw on stream and what you guys see in the VODs and all the other things is what came of that. Sitting in that same hot tub a year later was the epitome of goal setting for me, because I was like, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to do the biggest things that I can. And there I was in the same hot tub 11 months later, not even a year later, 11 months later. And I was like, what the heck did I do? What happened? It was from approximately September, like the beginning of September, until I was leaving for Vegas. Nothing was real to me. Like, I was very much struggling to stay in the moment. And when I was able to be in the moment, I was overwhelmed because it was a lot. So Commander Sealed is we run things for charity. We like the fact that we're a big charity project. We like the fact that we support the Trevor Project. And this year we supported Trans Lifeline. This year we raised $44,000 plus.
Oh, gracious.
Right? It was an insane endeavor. I couldn't have done it without everybody who helped. My co-host, Steven Cop, and Misha Migo, for stepping in and helping out with the cosplay contest and judging.
Yeah, Misha Migo, of course, who won the grand finale cosplay contest in Vegas.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, she won in Minneapolis, and then she won in Vegas, and I was like, oh, okay, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe that. Her
Seinfeld wasn't in Mini was amazing.
It was at the attention to detail on that was insane. But yeah, Commander Sealed's a fun way to do things. So where I was going with the ending, so we switched it up. So what I did from January until about July was I tested this custom dungeon that we have, and it's called the Festival. And it's the first room. We kept the Havoc Festival. So lose half your life, round it up. So if you're at 1, you're dead. But there is 3 other levels to it. And the first one is you get to choose basically on the upkeep after time is called. And you can either dig through time, look at the top 7, pick 2. You can Jessica's Will, but with colorless mana. So if you have your commander out, you get that much. You get
3
somebody
cards,
else's.
And then X amount of mana equal to the number of X cards in hand.
Correct. Or you can time twister yourself. Depending on how desperate you're feeling about.
Is this basically like if the game is going to time or something?
Yeah, so the game goes to time, and then on the next player's upkeep, you go to you pay your entry to the festival, which is half your life rounded up, and then the active player gets to play out one of those first 3, and so you go down through this festival, which is 3 phases after the initial paying of the thing. The second phase is a bunch of like fun decisions, and then the third phase, which is the most important one, is you have an omniscience token. All your creatures have haste, and you lose the game no matter what on your end step.
Well, that's definitely going to end the game.
So at Commander Sealed on camera, we had a game go to essentially time because we don't want to have ties. We want to make sure there's a clear-cut winner. The person who turtled up and survived, there were 7 Atraxa triggers, by the way, new Atraxa
Right.
in that match. The story to tell was epic, and the video will be up some point soon, probably when this goes out. That was an epic game, and the guy who was in 4th, Ben Makes,
Love Ben Makes. We had him on the show.
Yeah, Ben Makes was the survivor of the Atraxa War. It was insane.
So, if I was going to summarize it, then effectively, you guys have decided beforehand that there's going to be X amount of packs that you've curated from the history of Magic. Are they all just draft packs or set packs, or are they weirdo packs too?
So it's 7 packs from a curated pool. We took out Midnight Hunt and Double Feature and Crimson Vow for the day-night thing, to reduce judge calls, and this year we used everything that was in standard the past 2 years. Essentially what it boils down to to raise the curtain a little bit, it's what we can get at cost and what's kind of like inexpensive to be able to bring in.
Because this is like, if you're running effectively a chaos draft for like 1,000 people or whatever it is, many hundreds of people, then you're not going to be doing like, multiple packs of Urzas or whatever in there.
Exactly. Yeah. So like we made sure that we had other commander staples in there too. So everybody was guaranteed either a Commander Masters or a Mystery Booster, and a and 1 Commander Legends 1 and 2 Baldur's Gate packs. And basically it boiled down to...
How many packs do they get?
14.
Jeez, that's a lot. That's like half a box or something. Well, exactly. It's not half a box. It's like a good third of a box or something like that.
So the appeal of it is like, I'm a pack ribbon goblin. Like I love opening packs. So having that be a part of the build process where you're shredding way more packs than you think is necessary is amazing.
Dude, I did once. At one of these cons, I did a full box seal deck, not a commander. It was like a normal seal deck, 40 cards. When you crack 36 packs to get a 40 card deck, that deck is going to be stupid. It is going to be brutal, because you're like, oh, I guess I have 4 planeswalkers. Let's go.
Exactly. And you start turning into standard. It starts turning into standard decks, which is what we saw happen here at Commander Sealed, which was all of the decks ended up being around the same power level, which means all your deck building prowess and your ability to talk was going to get you wins in this game, and trying to time that the festival basically.
So that's one of the things, like, because I'm notoriously not a fan of tournament commander. I think it's not, I mean, I get it. I appreciate that it exists. I know that there are people like it, but it's not my jam. And I think that it incentivizes the wrong things in commander, because it changes the way you play. It changes the way you build, because there's money on the line. You want to win the money. So obviously you've got a different goal. However, the thing about Commander Seal that I appreciate is because of the nature of having a curated pool of sealed decks to pull from, to build your decks with, you're automatically capping the power level. The power level will never exceed like, Pioneer or something like that, right? Like, you don't have any super fast mono rocks. I mean, okay, you might in your Commander Legend fact, you might have a Soul Ring or a Command Tower or something. You might get lucky, but that's not going to be like every deck, right?
Exactly.
And it's just like when you're playing in a pre-release, somebody's going to have the Shieldred and somebody's going to have not the Shieldred, right? And but generally speaking, on average, those decks will be roughly equivalent power levels. And with the trading, you can smooth it out so you're not playing like the 28th card out of your draft, right? Like,
exactly. If you think about the trading portion, right, you have a 25% chance to win. And then you got to do that 3 times to get to the end, right?
Right.
To be able to get into the top tier of being able to qualify for the end. So you essentially start cheering for your table, because your table mates are potentially going to go farther than you are, just because of variance luck, whatever have you. So I saw a lot of people being very excited for their table mates winning and going back to them being like, oh, did you do that? Or, oh, did you do that? The other thing too, and we had Loading Ready Run play the format for us in July, which was a boon, because that helped with our exposure very, very much. And I have to thank James and the team for helping us out with that. It was a mind-opening experience to watch Adam trade away his mana drain that he had opened for the Great Halls, the common card that helps fix legends, because he had opened 5-color Urza.
Okay.
And
See, like,
he traded a $30 card for a 50-cent card to make his deck better. And I was like,
yeah, but
yes,
Adam
that's
is like
exactly how you do it.
100% a sealed junkie, and like he loves him some sealed in draft, and he will happily take the grunch card that will make you a better deck that'll help you win instead of like the money draft. And like, I love that about them. I think that's like just one of my, like, when you have access to all the cards, then you're just, or like phantom drafting, love me a phantom draft or cubes, because then I'm like, I don't care about like, oh my god, I have to take the Lotus. Like, whatever, take the card that actually helps your deck, which is okay. It's going to be the Lotus, but let's be real.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then just seeing trades like that happen, and the collaborative effort of it, I think really brings down, like, dulls that edge, if you would, if you want to talk about like,
it also makes it a more
competitive deck building.
social experience. Because so often when you're building a sealed deck, it's very quiet unless you're like, oh my god, I pulled that, and everybody's like, holy crap, you pulled that. But when you're like, hey dude, I've got a red-blue deck going over here, but I need that one red-blue legend that you just cracked. I have these green cards, and I know you were in the green, so you want to
Literal conversation that has happened at Commander Sealed, and it would happen just about at every table.
Yeah.
And then you have people doing crazy memes. Like 2022, Eliana opened braids and was able to turn 1 braids, because all cards that you open are legal in this format. So all the test cards, all the cards that are banned in Commander, all the crazy stuff that you think you can't do, you could do at Commander Sealed, because there is crazy stuff that sometimes will happen, that you'll be able to open. Like Emrakul was in Double Masters, right? And we opened Double Masters in the 15 mana Emrakul. You were able to use Emrakul. It's an experiment to be able to see if you can build the correct deck. Did Eliana have a good time with that like Braids deck? No. No, not at all. Nobody did.
Braids is miserable. Look, dude, every time someone's like, you need to unban Braids, I'm like, okay, I want you to go to a table and play against somebody else's Braids deck.
Your boy started in Odyssey. so like, I understand Braids. I know Braids. I've seen Braids.
You, sir, are no Braids.
No.
But no, it's just like, oh god, Braids is such a miserable. I mean, look, fine, whatever. If you want to play with Braids, go ahead. But you know what would actually be more fun than having Braids in your command zone? Having Braids just be an emblem that's in your game. Like, start with a Sulfuric Vortex emblem. Start with a Braids emblem. Start with just every turn you just got to sack stuff.
Sure.
Sucks to you. It's the abyss. Welcome to hell.
Well, let's put it this way. Eliana learned her lesson. And
Braids is Braids is a cool character.
But oh my god, yes. Such a cool character. Card. I love the art. That lady crazy.
Yeah.
That lady crazy. But like,
she's gonna cut you, and then you're going to be like, oh no, what have I done?
I remember having Braids, Singir Vampire, and Loquacious Champion in a casual 60-card deck back in 2002 when I was playing back then.
That's a mix of legend. I mean, that's a mix of cards right there.
I was
my goodness.
Yeah, I was already down that path when I was 16.
It's like, if you're gonna play with Braids, you might as well stick a Smokestacks in there. You might as well stick a Tangle Wire. Just go full asshole.
Yeah, but like I was saying, Eliana learned her lesson and built new Atraxa and was a part of the Ben Shuck game.
Okay.
And it was astonishing what that deck did. It was really, really cool. That game was
Atraxa, like, I was like, old Atraxa obnoxious. I didn't think that they could make him more obnoxious. They found a way to make him more obnoxious. Now, that's fine, though, because I think it's still beatable. It's still a fun card. I love the cards like that. I love big, stupid cards that do... Like, if you're paying that much to get that card out, you deserve to have the crazy time effect. But the problem is nobody's paying that. They're just flashing it in or cheating it in or...
finding a way to have it, or finding a way to sneaky in it. Yeah. Great card Cube too. I love putting Atraxa in my Cube decks.
Good times.
But yeah, so the whole process. So basically, the stream, we tested the end game from January to July. From July until about beginning of September, I did a world tour. So I went out to LGS's out in New Jersey and Toronto and a couple other places, and I just shook hands and I said hello, and I came with tokens and I said, hey, we're doing this cool thing in Rochester and in the middle of September. Come check it out. Made sure I showed up to.
That's why I can't do it, because it's like always the first weekend of school.
Oh yeah, exactly. And we're trying to be more conscious about date this next year. We have not, as of the recording of this, I have no idea on date or time or place yet. So stay tuned. But it will be announced.
I would prefer not upstate New York, but I'm not going to tell you what to do with your time.
See, the problem is that Rochester, New York is the birthplace of Limited. And we're based in Rochester, New York. So
yeah, but you're not Rochester drafting. Because nobody Rochester drafts.
We had a side event. We had a side event that was Rochester Omniscience Draft, where you had a rule of law and omniscience in play. That was
fun. You wanna just be here for the next 15 hours? Let's do omniscience draft let's do a Rochester draft to build commander decks.
No. Why would you
be here for the next 3 days?
Yes, we will. And hey, it's not my fault that Wizards of the Coast decided at Cosmocon, I believe it's called, in late 93, early 94, I believe it was March 94, debuted their limited format in my town, basically.
Well, basically, you know why Rochester exists, right? And I don't mean the metaphysical town. I mean, like, the draft format is because it's a lot like rotisserie baseball was, where it's like, I pick a player, you pick a player. We all have open information, because they hadn't really thought of the idea of, what if I just open a pack, take a card, and give it to that guy? Like, it's weird because draft seems so intuitive to us, and it's such a easy to grasp idea, like left, right, left. But like, there's no precedent for it. Nothing existed.
Like, it wasn't lost on me that we were doing something 30 years later that was a new format, essentially, that looked weird or like was something out of the ordinary, that was limited Magic, essentially. Like that, where limited comes home was a tagline that I was telling people about, like, Commander Sealed, because at the end of the day, we were just trying to play homage to those people back then, and essentially the ethos is try to capture that wonder that you have the first 6 months of you playing Magic, where you're like, wow, this card is cool, this is cool, I like doing this, I like being here.
The thing is, for me, like, two of my favorite ways to play Magic, if I was going to rank 1 and 2, one is Chaos Draft, and 2 is Boxing League Commander, which is, say, you take one sealed box, you build your commander deck, right? And you combine these two, because first off, you get the power level cap of Boxing League, where it's like, it's only as good as the packs you got in there, and it's only as good as it's never going to get past a certain threshold, no matter what you get. And 2 is the joy of Chaos Draft, where you're like, this Nemesis card and this card from Neon Dynasty were not meant to ever see each other in play, but together do something bananagrams, right? Like, that is to me the joy of Commander, right? Like, that's the whole point we do this is, and especially, I was talking to, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Gavin Dugan about this, which is basically like, every game Commander is 4 people playing 4 decks that are never going to be seen together in that combination ever. And the cards that come out of those top decks are always going to be different. Because even, like, if you're playing standard, modern, 60 card, whatever, or even like CDH, like, your games are going to get very streamlined and very similar very quickly, because they've got plans, they've got plots, they've got redundancy, they've got a goal. But when you're playing 4-player casual BS Commander, then we're living off the top, and whatever's coming out there, those interactions may never happen again in the history of Magic. Something weird's going to happen, and it's on us to figure out how to do this. And that's like the real just joy of it. So, like, I love Limited and I love Commander, so having Limited Commander is like my mega jam.
Yep.
I mean, like, that's why I'm always sad when you invite me to come out to Commander Sealed, and it's always right at the wrong weekend.
Man, wouldn't it be crazy if, like, Commander Sealed went on tour or something, and like came to the West Coast, and like, all these other places, and maybe ended up at like a Magic Con or something?
Look, dude, you know what? I don't know if you played Gavin's Mystery Event the last.
I did, absolutely.
This time around, Gavin's Mystery Event was like, normally it's like you get a bunch of mystery boosters and whatever the current set is, and you build a limited deck out of it. This time around, it was like Commander Legends plus random like other sets, and you build a commander deck and you play one-on-one commander out of it. And because you're doing that, you have this different, like, I ended up with a cool Marchesa deck that was just like incredibly powerful and just nutter butters. But because of that, you end up basically playing like one-on-one. I don't know if I necessarily like one-on-one sealed commander, but it's who cares? It's fun. And it's Gavin event. There's no such thing as a bad Gavin event.
This was my commander, the eldest dragon.
Go to hell.
It was fun. It was bad.
I say that with love.
I know. Yeah, I was able to try to put as many of these as possible.
The IHOP sleeves for my deck.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, the IHOP sleeves are definitely a part of my current
Tarkir Charm or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, I've got Tarkir Charm. I was mad because I only got one of. I got the what was it? I got Cat Oven. I got Band Eldraine card, Quest Completed Beast, Tarkir Charm, Questing Cosplayer. No, I only got Command Power Plant. I did not get Command. Command Mine, because I had a Command Tower, and it's exactly what you think.
I hate every word that just came out of your mouth, and I'm gonna have to yell at Gavin about this because that's messed up. Like, but also that's hilarious and funny. Like,
shout out to my boy Tron is bad. Let's go.
I love Tron. I love Tron because I like big mana, and I cannot lie. I mean, like, I'm here to put out big, but the problem is, like, everybody's like, "Oh, you're playing Tron, you're going to drop a card." No, dude, I'm playing Tron so I can put out Crawworm on turn 2.
I like Cityscapes Leveler. Like, that card is fun, and Near Battlesphere is cool. Like, you know, I like playing big dumb things. Like, my current obsession has been the combat step. So I play Goro and Satoru as my commander right now. I want to
build that deck so badly right now.
Oh my god, it's so good.
So good. That card, like, when that card came out, my friend Ben made a deck that he was like, still, like, it hadn't actually come out yet, but he was just like, "Oh, I saw this, so I printed it out and I built a deck around it." That thing is busted. Even with just a level 1, like, I'm going to put ninjas and dragons in this, that thing is nutters. The card is so stupid. I love it. Plus, I just like the fact that you can take Goro and Satoru to the tune of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, absolutely you can. And the best part about it is you can go like a couple ways with it. You can make it Dragon Typal. You can turn it into just ninjas and flip it around.
I'm going to read it to the audience who is audio only.
Yes.
Goro and Satoru, which was from Marching Machine Commander. It was like one of the weird bonus cards on top of that. So
I opened the foil alternate art version in my pre-release pack, and it was Destiny. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm building this.
So Goro and Satoru costs 1 Grixis, so it's a blue, black, red legendary goblin human. And whenever one or more creatures you control enter the battlefield this turn, deal combat damage to a player. A 5/5 red dragon spirit. You put out a 5/5 red dragon creature with flying. And then 1 in red, creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. So basically the idea is you're ninjaing out things, or you're just putting creatures out and giving them haste, swinging with them, and every time something that just entered today gets a hit in, you get a 5/5 for each of them. It is dumbtacular.
Extra combat steps.
Oh my god. It's
Karlach? Karlach is a card. Throwing Anger in the graveyard and a bunch of other stuff. The worst offending deck, a version of this deck that I had was back when I think I ramped out Goro and Satoru on turn 2, and then I played Rankle Master of Pranks on turn 3. Flying haste, 3 modes, sacrifice a dude, everybody discard the card, lose a life, draw a card, and then, people just played their commander, so I was like, oh, okay, I guess this happens. And then to replace Rankle was a 5/5 dragon. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, geez, I guess so. Twist my arm.
Yeah, right. And I'm looking at the new card from Doctor Who that is Rakdos, that is the Master, I think it is, that
There's
ignores
12 of the Masters in the
yeah. So it's 4 in a Rakdos. It's a 4/3. Basically it has Myriad, and it ignores sacrifice triggers. So if you make a Kiki-Jiki, if you go off of Kiki-Jiki, it keeps the Kiki-Jiki tokens. If you have the Delina Wild Mage, which was the original version of this deck that I have, if Delina makes
the Master multiplied.
copies, Yes.
Four red,
Yes.
4 red black for a 4/3 Time Lord Rogue. Myriad. The legend the legend rule doesn't apply to creature tokens you control, aka the master. When he makes more masters, all of them just hang around forever. And then triggered abilities you control can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control, which is to say, oh, create a token, it dies at the end of turn. Nope, it doesn't.
Exactly, and and that idea is a lot of fun to me because well, a lot of the tokens that I would make would just go away at the end of turn, but to keep them, you have my interest. I'm very excited about this. So that'll end up in that deck pretty soon. But yeah, and God, my way that I've interacted with Commander ever since Commander Sealed has just been so weird because I used to have a dozen commander decks ready to go, and I would go to Commander Night on Saturdays and I would play and I would try to play to the crowd, when in reality I took apart 10 of them this year. I took apart 10 decks and I picked 2 or 3 that I wanted to stick with and I wanted to make and I wanted to experiment with, and made them different and made sure that I could play them. And the biggest rule that I have now for my commander building is it's got to make me giggle. If I'm giggling and I am enjoying myself and I'm like, wait, this does what? Okay, let's roll, baby. I am playing it. So Goro and Satoru, when it made 3 dragons for the first time.
You were talking about trying to recapture that feeling of playing Magic for the first time. I'm pretty sure Goro and Satoru is exactly that feeling of just I'm getting dragons and I'm putting out creatures and they're attacking and I'm getting dragons. That is Magic for everybody's intro, right? Unless you're one of those super weirdos who's yeah, man, I learned to play with turbo control. I'm like, who hurt you? But give me dragons. I'm here for dragons. Let's go. Right now, the one that's captured my attention is E-Honda.
Okay.
E-Honda, I was so me and Wheeler do a podcast called Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic, and our Patreon has a bonus episode where a patron will suggest a commander to us, and then we have to sit there and spend an hour trying to build a deck around this. So because everybody's we want to hear you just talk about cards and try to figure out how to build commanders. And the first time, the first episode we did, they gave us friggin' a 4/3 vanilla creature from Portal 3 Kingdoms, and I'm like, but this time they gave us E-Honda. And E-Honda, who's 4 white 07, and he's got the ability as long as it's your turn, each creature times combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and then 100 hand slap, which is when he attacks up to 100 target creatures, each get plus O plus X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. And I was like, oh my god, I'm going to build the most irritating and disgusting white deck you've ever seen, and it's going to draw a crap ton of cards, and it's just going to put out a crap ton of tokens, and I'm trying to aim to get to the closest to 100 as possible, because I don't care if it wins or not. I just need to have 100 things on the table that I could then target with E-Honda and just go wham. It just tickles me, the idea of being that's the thing. I've been playing Commander for such a long time now, and in my role, obviously I have to deal with a lot of the nature of the format, and I realized that I'm not trying to build decks that win or that do whatever your standard Commander deck goal is. Nowadays, I'm I've got a sub goal that I want to try to get. I want to figure out I'm going to make a mini game for myself, and I'm going to build a deck that will try to do that thing. And if it does that thing, then I'm very satisfied, even if it doesn't win the game anymore. Because I've done that. I've won games. I've lost games. Great. But if I can get E-Honda to target 100 creatures,
You've done it. You've done it. Yes. No. I had a DePaula deck at one point or another where I had the 7 dwarves in, and I told everyone the 7 dwarves have special text on them. If I have all 7 of them on the battlefield at the beginning of my upkeep, I win the game. That is just how it works. And I didn't make the rules, but these are the rules now.
I mean, how it's hard for me to argue with that.
Yeah. No. I've actually been coming up with so how limited players have bread and calves as their as their
mnemonics and heuristics.
Yeah. I've got one for Commander, and by the time this comes out, I'll probably have my video out about it. So I'm gonna just break it down here. I call it vibes. So the first part is visualization, where you visualize what you want to do with the deck or how you want the thing to go. The second is intent. Do I want to make it super powerful? Do I want to play with it, regularly? Intent could even be something spiteful, where it's like, I have these players that play with their graveyard this whole time, and I want to make a deck that deals nothing with the graveyard, tries to hate the graveyard out, but still win on top of that kind of thing. And then you have begin for B, which is you have the rule zero conversation. You go to your LGS, you pick the audience in which you're going to be playing this deck with, and E is, hold on, I've got this written down. What's really crazy? What's crazy about this, honestly, is that I came up with it during the Sheldon.
Well,
thing.
I mean, to be fair, Bread is also one of those bombs removal. Nobody really remembers Drek.
So the E is engage, which is play the game. Figure out what your deck does, see how it does, and then S is summarize, which is talk to you. The most important thing you can do after a commander game is not just clean up your stuff and leave. It's talk about how you guys felt about the game afterwards, and 100%. try to understand where everybody else is coming from. And if you understand that you're doing well, if you're doing well, then you've got the right thing, then do it. But if you feel like it isn't vibing with you, you should definitely go back to the table and go back in those steps and try to figure out the entire way to build your deck. And as long as you're vibing, you should. That's exactly what commander should be.
Amen. There was a one of the most important things I think that Olivia Gober Hicks said is that rule 0 is for game 2, as in game 1, you're going to play, you're going to figure it out, you're going to see it, whatever. Rule 0 is okay, guys, that worked or didn't work. Can we tweak this in some way to make the next time more fun? And I'm I really like that notion. And I also post-mortem conversations happen in Magic all the time, but it's always really interesting. I mean, you don't always have to do it. Obviously, I'm not going to tell people you have to hang around and have a half an hour heart-to-heart after you play your commander game.
No.
Sometimes it's not that serious, but sometimes you're hey, what do you think about this? Or how do you think that worked? Or, gosh, I wish I had X, Y, and Z. And I think that's really important to look at your decks and be yo, this looked really good on paper. But then the first time one of my favorite stories to tell is the first time I built my Titania deck. And I built my Titania deck and I put in all of these ways to sacrifice land, because obviously you want to sack land to get your 5/3s, right? And I was super excited and super jazzed for this. And Josh Lee Kwai comes up to our store in the Bay Area to hang out. This was back when Command Zone was small enough that Josh and Jimmy could literally just come and visit and hang out, and people were oh wow, that's neat, and then move on with their lives, as opposed to now where if Josh was to leave his house, it would just be
that's a whole podcast and a half. Anyways, the
point though is we sat down and I was hey, I want to try this deck out. Do you mind? And he's sure, let's jam. And I sat there, and the first thing I did was I threw away all my land to Zuran Orb without having a haste enabler in place. So I had all these 5/3s, and then Josh is Wrath of God? And I was I need to go back and redo this. And then the second edition I built to that deck ended up being Turbo Ponza, which is to say it was all mad hardcore land destruction. Because what are the lands that go to the graveyard? Wasteland? Strip Mine, Dust Bowl, literally every single one of these just act land, destroy a land thing. And I realized, I'm oh yeah, look, I've got Ramanop Excavator, I've got Crucible Worlds, I'll just bring them back, it'll be fine. I'll just make a bunch of 5/3s. And then I'm oh my God, I'm playing the most heinous and complete jackhole move deck I've ever made. God, and I was this is also not working.
I had an experience recently where I played with somebody who had a straight up control deck. They were okay, I love mono blue. I love, blue white control. And I played against them, and I was at the table with 2 other people. It was just 3 randos at my LGS. And it was he stopped afterwards and was thanks for not complaining about that, because all my friends do. And I'm I can understand why, but we had a conversation beforehand, and we were all big adults about it. So
right, that's the thing. That's such an important thing. It's I think the biggest innovation we've had, the biggest impact we've had in Commander has been saying, hey, talk to the people. If you tell them, yo, I'm playing a deck that's got Yokel Hobson, I'm playing a deck that's got with Baral and 38 counters, and the only creature I have is my Mishra's Factory. Okay, fine. If I know that going in, I can make the decision whether to sit down at the table and just be all right, let's do this. Or I can make the decision to say no, I think that's just not my jam. Have a good day. And like Toby Elliott has a saying, which is like, not playing Commander is better than playing bad Commander.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like just deciding to do something else is better than sitting down for 3 hours playing a game that you hate.
Yep,
Like,
exactly. And figuring out that you hate a game 25 minutes in and you're like, I am not vibing with this, you have every right to pick up your cards and walk away from that table and not play that game. Do not waste
that's
your
another reason why I prefer non-tournament style Commander, because I
Mhm.
can just get up and leave.
Mhm.
Or I can just be like, yo, this is not my jam. I mean, not that I don't usually, because I find that disrespectful to the other players, etc. And people who want to play with me are like, look, I want to play with you. I'm like, okay, fine.
Sure.
But like that being notwithstanding, it's still just like I have the right to just be like, I'm not losing anything by saying, yo, can we just do something else? This is not working. Or do you mind if I grab a different deck or something? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
enforce healthy boundaries. Make sure that you're doing the things for yourself to protect yourself at a table to be able to say, "Hey, you have every right to sit there and say, hey, I'm not really enjoying this game."
well,
Like,
it's like that vignette that Sheldon told during the memorial, right? Like where he's like, "Yo, this dude came down and comboed off on turn 3, and we're like, great, you did that. We're going to continue playing. Good for you."
Mhm,
And he's
mhm.
like, "But you can't. No, we totally can't." That's like,
we
now,
we
mind you,
can.
that's a little more brusque than I prefer to be, but that was also Sheldon. But it's
Yeah.
also just like the point, though, is like, hey, look, we want to have an experience. We're going to have the experience because there's nothing to lose.
I believe that wholeheartedly that Magic the Gathering is a secret food club. Like, basically, that it at the end of the day, all Magic the Gathering is an excuse to sit down with your friends and
Yes.
to have a conversation with them over something and then get food after, because that, you're secretly foodies on the inside, in my opinion. And I essentially have a deck that goes fast, that will end the game in 40 minutes. I have a deck that goes, relatively normal speed if we want to play normal Commander, and then I have a deck that's slower, or that tries to slow the game down, so that I have an excuse to talk with people at a table while we're playing Commander, to be able to sit there and say, hey, we have an excuse to stop and slow down and actually either get to know each other or catch up with each other. And that is super important to me, to be able to do that. It's all about talking with the other people at the table, and the cards in your hand, the cardboard in your hand, is not the part of it. The gathering is the big part of Magic. So you want to make sure that you're enabling the gathering.
I mean, there's a lot of people who'll be like, well, then why don't you just play a board game? I'm like, what do you think I'm doing? That's what Commander
It is a board game.
It's a board game, man. It's like, let's be real. We're playing competitive Agricola here. That's what we're doing. Now, mind you, I'm not like, I speak a big game, but I'm not definitely one of those people who's like, you play your game and I'll play my game and we compare the end, because that's boring.
I
But
mean,
also,
like,
I want to build my big machine. I do.
exactly.
Anyways, whatever. We're not here for my gripes. That's fine. The thing, though, is I just like what you fostered over there. I like the
Thank you.
idea of Commander Seal. I like that it's for charity. I like that people get to come and just crack packs and build decks and sling them against each other. It's just such a great way to remember what we're doing. It's
The
fun.
biggest the biggest thing that I want people to take away from this, especially those of us listening that are in the content creation game, is that I made a director's decision when I decided to film these Commander games, to not have commentators talk over the players at the table. I wanted the players to be the showcase, and the players to be the ones that are making the story, because there is enough chatter and enough talk and enough understanding at a table to be able to understand what is going on if you are paying attention from start to finish. It might be a little harder if you're just coming in the middle of in the middle of the thing, but watch for 15 minutes and you might be able to pick it up. And it's literally just, I wanted someone to turn into the stream that had never heard of this before and feel like they're at their LGS watching some of their best friends play a game of Commander, and sit there and watch them interact with each other and have real human interactions at live speed. I come from a professional wrestling background, so it's like I'm used to having people do things live and unscripted, and with
You're not just
certain
going to drop that on me. You
What?
can't just come in and be like, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm a wrestler.
I'm not a wrestler. Okay, let me put this way. I was in the wrestling business. I did backstage stuff. I did interviews. I did commentary. That was my big thing, was the commentary. And I streamed a little bit back
Oh no, it's off the turnbuckle.
Yes, pretty much that. Pretty much that. Just trying to tell the story, going through, talking. Had a podcast for 7 years. So that was a wrestling podcast, and
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. That was a labor of love. We had 20 people listen to that every week, and that was
it. But they
and
probably loved it though.
Absolutely, because it was for them. Like, we didn't make it for anybody else. We made it for them. But no, we had a great time with that, and that life taught me a lot of things, and it helped me grow up. To be honest with y'all, I was not the greatest person until I was about 30. To be honest. And I learned, and wrestling was a part of that time when I was just trying to discover what actual masculinity looked like, as opposed to toxic masculinity, and
sure.
Learning boundaries and that kind of thing. And I would not have given up any of that time for that, because I learned so much, essentially.
Well, it's very important to have a reckoning once in a while and sit down and actually look at yourself and say, like, yo, this is maybe not the way I want to live my life. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole podcast. Like, that's we call Hobbs and have a conversation podcast.
Yep.
But the thing is, though, it's like, one of the things about Commander is that Commander is really the home of table talk. It is the home of us BSing back and forth and just having a good time and being like, no, you can't do that, or let me take that back, or whatever. Commentary over Commander is incredibly difficult. Yep. Because it's and like, I give mad props to the people who do it for like Monarch and for Eminence or whatever, because the fact that it is so hard to keep track of like the stack when there's 4 people deep, or when there's like lots of actions and you're like, whose turn is it? What's going on? What do they have in all their hands? And knowing the meta and knowing all this stuff, like, commentary for 2 decks is hard. Commentary for 4 is impossible.
Yeah, and shout out to Ashanti and to Scoots to be able to do that on the Eminence team. And I'm not sure who's doing it on the Monarch team right now, but shout out to those two specifically, because they're killing it over there, trying to make sure that people understand and get educated about the subject.
Look, man, it may not be my jam per se, but I still respect and am glad that it's out there for the people who want tournament style Commander. Like, agreed. Good. Commander is an open source format. Make it your own. Make it whatever you want it to be. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm here to support you 100%, but I'm not going to play because it's just not the jam I want. My speed is sealed deck.
Sure. And the thing that differentiates like Commander Sealed versus like CEDH is that we try to keep the prize structure real flat. So like you were able to walk away with a lot of tickets if you were to have W's essentially at Commander Sealed. But it was the idea. We
forgot to talk about the prizes, because those were really rad.
So okay, we had a charity auction and we had prizes. Those were
okay. Whatever you got things from cool people.
Kaja Foglio's first painting in 15 years.
That's Kaya Folio.
Kaya Folio. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
How did that happen?
Matt, the TO from Just Games. That's all him. Like, he is a big Magic art nerd, like a huge Magic art nerd, and he loves
Folio to do anything, let alone Magic art. Like, what?
Folio heard about what we were doing and thought it was for a good cause. I mean, really, that's what it turns into. As far as I'm aware. We asked a whole bunch of people to come, and the content creators, artists, and that sort of thing. And the people who got it jumped in and donated a lot of really cool stuff. The charity auction that we had raised so much money. It was insane. We had a ton of weird things come in, like singles, and we had like Magic binders from 5th edition and Visions and that kind of thing, and Warhammer pieces and custom art, and what was it? We had the bulk box. The bulk box was the best idea that we had. So imagine this, right? You have 14 packs of cards, and you made a commander deck out of them, and you keep your sideboard. Well, you take the important stuff out, but then you have this stack of cards to do.
Yeah.
Well, it goes into the bulk box, and then that got raffled off for charity.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah,
That's rad. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and on stream we put collector booster boxes in there. We put a bunch of stuff in there. Like there was a bunch of donations from the artists. They had custom tokens. I think Gold Sabretooth, who did my logo by the way, he had some. He was there and had a custom piece put into the box. Like it was just a bunch of stuff, and it was really cool. Like
man, I'm looking at the Kaya painting of this like older fairy with this orb and this owl on her shoulder, and I'm like, just God, that's so cool.
The story about the owl is really cool too, because literally it was they saw a post on Reddit of somebody who collected all the cards with owls in it and made this painting with an owl in it specifically for them. It was the callback to that.
So was this raffled off, or how did that work?
It was auctioned off on on the website. Yes.
Yeah, because like that's insane.
Yep, and all of the auction stuff, and we will be having the auction next year, and there will be some other stuff that will be happening with the auction stuff that will upgrade the experience. Half of it went to Trans Lifeline, half of it went to Trevor Project.
Nicely done. Nice. Man, that's so crazy. Congratulations to you and the team for putting on such a fun thing year after year. It's real hard to do this. It's real hard to keep up with these things because I know what it's like to try to put on events like this, and it's a lot of work for very little kind of like satisfaction. But man, it feels good when it works. And when you see a room full of people doing the thing, you're like, oh.
Let me tell you something. The most euphoria I have ever felt in my entire life was looking at people that are on the opposite coast to me, or like in Texas or something like that. Literally looking Bobby Christine in the face and going, "Hey, see you Friday," and seeing them in Vegas the next Friday. Literally, the best feeling in the world is to look at somebody on a Sunday and tell them, "I'll see you Friday," because you know that you're going into a weekend, you're going to have some fun, and this is going to be an insane sort of thing. Cool. that you're going to get into whatever trouble or shenanigans you end up getting into.
All right. So we've come to the end of this show. So let's do some plug times. Thank you so much for joining me, Gunnar. It's really been great. I really wanted to talk to you for a long time, but not necessarily about this, but we'll have you come back on and talk about other things later, because our conversations in person have always been very lovely and I really enjoy you. So, if people wanted to find you or the sealed stuff, where can they go?
All right. So I'm on Twitter and a bunch of other places. You can find me just by Googling my name, GunnarWuher. Twitter, B-Sky, Instagram, other stuff. Commander Sealed can be found at commandersealed.com. And you can also find us on Twitter at CMDR Sealed, and I believe also on Instagram at CMDR Sealed. And you'll be seeing some stuff coming up. We're going to post memes. We're going to post funny things. We're very LGBTQIA rights, so we try to post stuff about that. We try to post stuff about unions because we're pro-union, that kind of thing, and a bunch of other stuff that will be happening with Commander Sealed coming up here soon. Hopefully, we will have news for you by the time this comes out, and if we don't, we will have news very soon as soon as you hear this, essentially. So there will be more stuff coming soon, and awesome. There is a distinct chance that Commander Sealed might be coming to a town near you, and that's all I can say about this at this current moment. But as far as I'm aware, as in when we're recording this, but there might be more information out when this comes out. So go look for that.
Yeah, we'll see. We will find out because I'm very eager to hear. But as always, my friends, you can find me at Gear Reporting Gears. You can find this podcast at Cool Stuff Inc. every Tuesday or at YouTube every Tuesday. Thank you to my editor, EK. You can also find me on my other shows, Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic and Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.